Thanks so much for joining us on the Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM. Good morning to the world. Good morning to all our listeners in the diaspora. The purpose of the Bridge is to bring us together as a Jamaican people, to understand our vibes, to affirm our blessed identity, and to push forward for the realization of our dreams as a special people. Honorable Pearnel Charles Sr. joins me, co-hosting the Public Eye today. Later on in the program, Richard Troupe, the Director of School Safety at the Ministry of Education, addresses us all on the vexed issue of the violence that seems to be so prevalent in our schools today. And later on, when we join Irie Jam for the international connection at midday, we'll be talking with Ambassador Curtis Ward, distinguished public servant in the international field for Jamaica and keen observer of all the affairs that are now happening within the diaspora. Our Prime Minister is meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris today, so there's much to talk about as we understand Jamaica's role in the world and the prospects that can be expected for our nation's good. So thanks for joining us, the Public Eye and the Open Mind. The phone numbers are 876-676-4996, and the WhatsApp and text line is 876-551-5782. A new concept in radio, a new type of dialogue for the benefit of our country. Sir Charles, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And welcome.
Well, it looks as if you look better in the day than in the morning.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Because you look what you have that cheek red.
Yes.
That means it can be seen in the sun.
Well, you see, people of my complexion can't hide your redness, you know. I could tell you a story. Once I was coming down from remember that mayor of Kingston, Mrs. Colleen Yap, in many different years.
Yes.
And I was coming from her office downtown Kingston, and two big ladies heard me speaking.
Yes.
And so ladies of massive avoirdupois and unbridled tongues, you know, the best of Jamaican.
Yes.
Jamaica. So one blocked the road, blocked the entry.
Yes.
And she said, "Are you run it to it?" So I said, "Yes, good morning." She didn't have a word to say to me. She looked at her friend, equally large, and she said, "Fancy. I thought him was a big black man, but he was a little red boy." So you're confirming those characteristics today, aren't you? Anyway, it's good for us.
You might remember for 2 seconds that there were two of us, black Jamaicans, in a political science class at City University.
Yes.
And this Jamaican guy, he was a perfect Englishman when he speaks.
Tell you.
And the professor always loved to hear him ask him questions.
Yeah.
And he generally stand up in the class and said, "You know, Professor, I'm not able to express the way I would like to present." And the whole class is looking at this Englishman speaking, black Englishman. Perfect, you know. Not even Englishman
could talk speak. Like him.
Of course, you know.
Speaky spokey.
I'm not speaky spokey. I'm making a presentation, you know.
And then when they came to you to ask you the question now, the different accent entirely.
Well, I have to drop a little part.
I tell you, some would say that we are mixed up culturally, you know. Others would say that we're just diverse.
That's a proper word.
Yes.
We have diverse cultures. Because even in Pato, you know, I went to which of the African country? Miss Johnson took over.
Oh, Liberia. Mrs. Johnson, Sir Leaf.
Do you know they have the same Pato there?
Really?
Yes.
Well, a lot of Jamaicans did go to Liberia.
Yes.
Okay. And they've kept it. Yes. Similar there.
In a lot of
Liberia.
Where I went.
Yes.
Man, I said, "So what go on, brother?"
Really?
Yes.
My goodness. So we're large then.
No, we're larger. I went to Ethiopia.
Yes.
Where our Rasta brothers went.
Yes.
And I decided to go and look for them in their area.
Yeah, Shashamani.
And they gave me a message to give all Rasta man of Jamaica.
Right.
Hey, brethren, I'll them give you Ethiopia a land.
All of you.
A land.
No milk and honey.
So if you don't want to come and use the land, no come.
No come.
So I went and speak to some and said, brethren, don't believe that Ethiopia offer milk and honey.
Milk and honey.
All they offer
is the land.
See our land there?
Uh-huh.
Take all what you want, go work.
Yeah.
Or else you're dead if you're hungry.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the things that we have to know. Which takes us then. Many people saw the return to Ethiopia as being a part of reparations.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if, well,
not any longer.
no. The death of El Selassie
Yes.
has
changed.
slowed down that.
Sure. And also
and they discovered that El Selassie himself declared that he's a man.
yes.
When he came here.
Yes.
He's not a god.
Not a god.
And it sort of changed things.
Okay, but even so, and people have found that when you repatriate to Ethiopia, life is very difficult. In fact, in many cases, more difficult than people were leaving. But this raises an issue that you and I have been talking about, because I thought we had very productive discussions last week on directing the whatever is decided on as reparations
Yes.
towards educational advancement for large numbers of persons. Remember, you reminded me of what the Honorable Robert Lightman had done, and we could follow.
Out of that discussion,
Yes.
and don't give it all to me,
Yes.
because it's the first I've heard it, the first I've proposed it, that we would do better
Yes.
if we say to the so-called mother country, who she was, look, we have developed, help you develop.
Yes.
You're going to help us to develop.
Yes.
And the way you're going to do it
Yes.
is to help us to create the professionals, the education, and the institution island-wide, so that some can help us to build a country and they can build others. No, it's not to give me no money to put in my budget to clean the road and this.
But then there's a misapprehension, is there not? First of all, let's say two things. One, we were very happy that someone with the acumen and history of public service like the Honorable K.D. Knight,
Yes.
Order of Jamaica like you,
Yes.
seemed to have listened in on the program and agreed with us that reparations should be directed towards educational advancement.
Yes, I don't think he went as far as you were able to pull me, because we went as far as to Dr. Hamilton, and she agreed.
Yes, she did.
She agreed that we should move from the sidewalk demonstration, move from the ballroom to the boardroom.
Sure.
And in the boardroom, I said, please invite me, because Ronnie and myself, on behalf of the bridge, privilege we have on the bridge,
Sure.
to make a proposal,
For the diaspora.
right, to the diaspora and to others that, look, if you put a university in one of the 3 counties and 2 more,
Sure.
5, and you say we are going to produce 2,000, he's graduated,
That's it.
2,000 professionals. First, teachers, engineers, doctors,
Yes, healthcare professionals.
nurses, professionals.
Yes.
And there's a group to be developed. In the teaching group, there are we don't have enough mathematicians.
No, STEM teachers.
So in other words, it's not new teachers
but
necessarily.
let's emphasize that then, and that's hope, and that's a specific way of directing reparations that I think would be a basis for discussion.
Yes.
But then you see, I'm glad that KD picked it up. I hope others will. But there's another side to it, because you heard as well as I did. The Rasta brother at the demonstration in front of the British High Commission want free money, and there are many who feel that reparations, all of that must mean is that money coming for them pocket, because of what happened to their 4 parents.
Yes.
Now, that is a hard sentiment to debunk when people are hungry or when they.
Yes, but. You see, I show you a headline.
Yes.
Leaders are examined and put forth in crisis.
Yes.
When you want to know who is a real leader.
Yes.
So we have this before us. That's why we are leaders.
Well, that's and
to direct the proper way
Sure.
on behalf of the rest of us.
And we on the bridge are saying to our listeners and to say to our people, look here now, let's move this forward and let us seek a major uplift in education, which we can't afford or don't afford for ourselves right now, but which is absolutely necessary for development. It is something that is long-lasting and can be perpetuated, sustained over time.
And create the future generation.
And create the future generation.
And hold on, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example,
Yeah.
a university was built in Montego Bay.
Yeah.
That they are going to concentrate on technology.
Right.
Right? One going to be science and maths.
Yeah.
And in, say, 4 years,
Yeah.
we produce the first 2,000 mathematicians,
Yeah.
scientists,
Yeah.
engineers.
Sure.
Maybe you can find jobs, all of them in Jamaica.
No, so they can they can benefit the very country that has donated it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
and send back.
it's a virtuous circle.
To me, to stop the dirty cardboard
Yes.
and cursing,
Yes.
we move from the bank side
Yes.
and the ballroom
Yeah.
and
Into
sit
the boardroom.
in the boardroom and say, "Now, gentlemen,
Yeah.
we have helped you to be developed.
Yeah. So now we are
We
asking,
want you to
balance your account.
balance out,
Ha.
help us to develop, so we can even help you to develop more."
The public eye coming up with concrete solutions, with strategies. That's what we do in this program. It's unusual, and it's the alchemy of Pearnel, Charles, and myself. When we come back, Richard Troupe of the Ministry of Education going to talk about the recent spate of violence in schools and what the Ministry of Education is doing to tackle the issue. It's everybody's concern. Soon come. This is the public eye and the open mind on the bridge. The Honourable Pearnel Charles Sr. and I'm Ronald Thwaites. We join together to look at the challenges of the nation, to look at the extraordinary opportunities. And this is time for our feature on education that we are so pleased to host on a regular occasion. Mr. Richard Troupe, welcome again to the public eye.
Good morning, Reverend Thwaites. Good morning, Honourable Pearnel Charles Sr.
How are you,
Good
sir?
morning. Not too bad. Let me say a quote that Ronnie would have made earlier. Good morning to the world and to your listeners. To be here.
Thank you. Boy, I tell you, Acting Director of Safety and Security in Schools in the Ministry of Education, Richard Troupe. People here in Jamaica, our friends and relatives and countrymen abroad are distressed that unfortunately the return to face-to-face learning, over 1,000 schools has been accompanied by not a spate, but significant incidents of violence and indeed even death. How does the ministry analyze it? What do you think is behind it? And what kind of common understanding do we have to share in order to curb it?
Yes. Reverend Thwaites, thank you for the opportunity to be speaking to the nation and to the world on this matter. As a Ministry of Education and Youth, we understood that as we return to the full resumption of school, there would have been challenges. Our boys and girls would have been engaged, would have been out of the system in terms of physical engagement, physical face-to-face classes for close to 2 years. We did not know, and we were very concerned in the context of the kind of structure support mechanism that would have been available to our boys and girls while they were utilizing the remote modalities of teaching and learning. As they transitioned to schools, we understood that there would have been some amount of challenges in terms of behavioral issues.
Yes.
They would not have been engaged in a structured environment for 2 years. It is going to take some time for them to be readjusted. The other thing that is of concern to us too, Reverend Thwaites and Sir Pearnel Charles Sr., we are also aware as a nation that at this time, many persons in the commuting space would have been very vulnerable to the increased incidence of robberies. And so there are students who believe that they are being targeted for their cell phone, and that would have probably contributed to the proliferation of weapons being found in school as children in their own ways try to make themselves a little bit safer. As a Ministry of Education, we have been challenging our boys and girls to not to resort to that kind of action. And so as a ministry, we have really articulated a 3-tiered approach. response to the increased incidence of violence in our schools. As a Ministry of Education, we believe that we must indicate to the system, to our principals and our teachers and our parents and board chairmen and the general public, some things we're prepared to do differently. These would have been articulated with our principals in our meeting convened by our Honorable Minister Abel Williams last week, Friday, a conversation with the school principals about what would be some of the things the ministry is committed to do. And I will name about 6 Thwaites, indicate to what we would have challenged the schools to be also focusing on, and also the challenges we would have laid down to our principals to be challenging our students, because they too have a responsibility.
Like what?
So from a Ministry of Education, our response to this issue, 1, we are in dialogue and we are committed to work with the Community Safety and Security Branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force to meet with our principals and deans of discipline over the course of this week. Today, we have a meeting with the 100-man police station and principals and deans of discipline in schools in the parish of St. Catherine, because we want to guide by the technical experts from the Community Safety and Security Branch. How do we assess and determine strategies to address our safety and security concerns in particular schools?
All right, that's 100-man station, our listeners should know, is in Portmore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is in Portmore, yes.
That is the biggest dormitory that we have in Jamaica.
Yeah. Portmore.
And also
Not Jamaica.
a number
In the Caribbean.
Well, look at that.
It's the largest dormitory of intelligence
Right.
in the Caribbean.
Yeah. So you're going to meet with the
right.
police there to liaise with them as to what measures they can take in the school. But Richard Troupe, Pearnel Charles, is this a police problem, sir? When its manifestation is.
I'm glad you asked that, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Troupe, both yourself and Ronnie, all 3 of us are Jamaicans. We're born here. We go a different school. Let me see if I can comfort your heart with some hardship. Fighting has been taking place in school from the beginning. They were flicking stone, then they stopped string stone, then carry knife, then they stopped carrying knife, then they carry gun. That's a development in our crisis, not only in school, in communities. Now, the more you expose this with this, how we're doing it now, it to me, it doesn't solve the problem. The teachers have the problem. The principal in my day was not only a teacher, a pastor, a police, a man who solved problems for parents. And so we always have some problems.
But here now, it's bigger. Because, Richard Troupe, I've been hearing some parents defending giving a girl a scissors or a boy a ratchet knife on the basis that he might have to protect himself on the bus. Now, this is a deeper problem. I don't know how, well, how do we teach people nonviolence?
That's right.
We can't teach them nonviolence and they're being hurt.
Yes.
That's another part of our strategy, Sir Thwaites.
Tell me.
Again, one of the we know that, you talk to children now that comes before us for behavioral issue, and the children will say, sir, miss, we have conflict management issues, right? Truth be told, part of the response of the Ministry of Education is to treat with conflict management. How do we equip our students with the tools to better manage conflict? We will always have conflict. It is how we manage the conflict that becomes an issue. Yeah. And Sir, Honorable Colonel Charles Sr. is right. We always had fights, long before, even when we were children in schools. What the problem is now is the use of social media and how we all of a sudden begins to now sensationalize.
Don't forget it. Don't forget it. The involvement of parents has caused a problem. Parents who walk into school and grab up teacher. Yeah. So teacher trying to box that boy.
So I have 3 suggestions, Richard Troupe, to add to what the good things the ministry is doing. First of all, I feel that there should be at least 2 to 3 weeks before the term, the September morning comes, when certainly the new students in any school are completely indoctrinated regarding the ethics of that school, the type of behavior that is required, and the piece has to characterize any good education. We need to have a complete socialization process, certainly for the new students and hopefully for the returning. Secondly, sir, if we could prevail, it's difficult. We need teachers, but we need a social worker in many schools whose remit is violence prevention. Yes? And thirdly, it may come to the point where the principals have to become district constables so that they have the power to restrain violence when that rears its head. What do you think?
Randy, before he comes in, that's such a good thing that we want to mark it down as a presentation from the bridge.
Okay.
Now, let me add one. Because I think something like this may have happened, or is happening. But if the ministry institute that all children come in 2 days with parents.
Look at that. I agree.
And me not talk about mama alone.
No.
Papa must come too.
Yes.
But full the school and you get some outsiders like Mr. Troupe coming from the Ministry of Education and a teacher to talk to them about discipline, the new children, what they're going to get, this. But I have not heard this, although it might be happening.
What a lot of ideas, Richard Troupe, because I would want to add the transport operators too.
Oh yes?
Yes.
Randy, I know he's taking off. Go ahead, Mr.
Can I say though, colleagues, I mean, excellent recommendations. Yes. We will make sure that your recommendations are copyright.
Considered.
From you to the system, not a problem.
Free.
But again, consistent with even the trajectory of your recommendations.
Yes.
Again, we want for our public to understand that there are some very important things in training. Consistent with what you're recommending. One, we are partnering with the Ministry of Justice. Restorative justice training will begin in 77 of our high schools right after the Easter break.
Very good.
This is not a new, because it's a tool to manage conflict,
no, that's
to restore harm, to restore the community when harm is done.
Sure.
We are not only targeting, we have pivoted, Reverend Thwaites. Traditionally, the approach would have been with our educators. Yeah. This time around, the 77 schools, we are targeting 30 participants from each of these 77 schools, 5 educators, 20 student leaders, and 5 parents. We are saying that it is the collective effort of the school, not just the educators, student leaders, and not just the student council rep
prefect
or
body.
The prefect body, but we're also saying other students who would wield particular influence in the school must also be targeted among the 20.
No, that's the most positive thing I've heard.
Equipped with the skills that they are able to apply these to the context of school, to their homes and to communities, so that other students will benefit. Right. We're also committing as a ministry. Before COVID, we had conceptualized 7 regional behavior modification programs to impact 210 schools, 5,250 at-risk students, 840 educators, and the parents of the at-risk students. We are going to be prepared to roll out these behavior modification program. It's a 1-year project. It is going to be done in partnership with targeted service providers, civil society organizations. I can't call the names as yet, but we have already signed off on the agencies that will be engaged. Why am I saying that? I am saying to the nation that our schools as a ministry, we have a responsibility to complement the efforts of the school. We have a responsibility to mobilize other technical experts to guide us in this process, so that this 1-year intervention program, 7 different methodologies that will be tested. The intention is to ensure that during the year and after the year, these methodologies are institutionalized within the 210 schools, so that they will have these as tools to use to work with targeted population of children, so that we are strengthening their ability to behave in accordance to the established rules of the school, and to also ensure that they will not be among the students that will generally be weed out of the system because of behavior, because the expulsions and suspensions cannot be the order of the day.
No, it can't.
Yes,
when we come back,
we suspend them and we expel them.
That's a holiday.
What?
When we come back from the
right.
break, I'd like to remind us of one particularly mode of intervention, and I know Pearnel has some more to offer. Well, let's take a break on the public eye. This is vital stuff. This is how we're going to re-socialize our children, reduce violence, make more of education, and achieve the prosperity that we all seek. Soon come. On the bridge, this is the public eye. I'm Ronald Thwaites. The Honorable Pearnel Charles is with me. We're discussing with Richard Troupe of the Safety and Security Division of the Ministry of Education how we're going to reorganize our education system, how everybody has to have a role so that we get peace in schools, so that we can get learning, so that we can get justice and outcomes that make us proud. Richard Troupe, what do you think of some of the suggestions made?
Oh, Reverend Thwaites, excellent suggestion. Can I tell you? And we expected nothing less. You are both heavily involved in education and working with communities within your respective constituencies. You bring significant wisdom to the issue, and we want to be so guided. We welcome this level of support, Sir Thwaites, because truth be told, the situation in our school is not a school problem, it is a societal issue. We
problem,
need to have
yes.
a conversation with all stakeholders, and so we welcome.
Okay.
And to demonstrate how serious we are, those recommendations you make, we will be advancing it for consideration and for implementation, because this is not a talk shop.
Yes.
It is about, as you rightfully say, finding the solutions and making sure it's been implemented.
Pearnel has an idea.
Mr. Troupe, we are going to country boy suggestion, local suggestion, right? I've never lost it.
I believe Richard Troupe and I are town boy. You're a country boy. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, not Ronnie, sorry.
Go ahead.
But let me say this to you. I have complained on this show already that one of the problems we had was that mothers or baby mothers are the one that is forced to come to school with the children. The fathers don't even show up at parent-teachers meeting. We have to encourage fathers who are the dominant factor to come there. I see in high schools they have prefects. Every class should have somebody who can intervene. Not the teacher necessarily, because them fight outside and them ramping. Somebody who have a button after, boy, I am to bring discipline that I've selected because I'm going to part you.
So they would be deputy deans of discipline. Is there what I like is that is changed from within Richard Troupe. That is using the resources within the school.
Yes.
Not to complain about having police officers come when they can, or even to have faculty members so empowered. But is there a room for the kind of philosophy that Sir Philip Sherlock, Mrs. Pauletta Chavans used to espouse, that you have to build the virtue, the good behavior, the standards, the enforcement from within the school community?
Yes. Change from within.
Change from within, sir.
Absolutely. And Sir the Pearnel Charles Senior, there is, all of our schools now, certainly our high schools, are student leader in each class. Yes? Many of these student leaders are actually nominated, selected by the students of the respective class. So they are not seen as a teacher's pet, but a representation of the voice of the class, the students in that particular class. What we now need to do, colleagues, is to ensure that we're utilizing these particular student leaders effectively to be partners in this process, to be not only beneficiaries of the change, but the agents of the change. I think that is the spirit in which we are now moving. That's why I would have articulated, for example, our conversation with restorative justice is to have the training not only for educators, but also student leaders, because they are critical to this process.
Mr. Troupe, I got a telephone call from somebody last week, asked me if I would come to their school to speak to the children. I was so happy. But I turned and said, what age? She said, some is from 5. So these are babies.
Yes.
But I can go and handle it.
Yes.
Because I have children.
Yes.
And I know to inspire children
Yes.
to want to become.
But then you're giving me an idea, because every school that I know of, Richard Troupe, has a church near to it.
Yes.
What is the blessed purpose of the church if it is not interacting with the school?
And what would it be,
Church
Ronnie,
members.
if you hear a pastor now come to school today?
Yes.
And pastor coming to talk about peace.
Yes.
And this.
Okay.
And this.
So we have resources, eh? But
That's
what we have to do is to assist people like Richard Troupe, who is in the trenches, by mobilizing a consciousness first and then an activity by all those people. That to me is where we.
But Ronnie, in the church you have several officers.
Sure.
And they work.
Yes.
And Mr.
I'd love
Troupe
an appeal.
If
to
they
them.
could go out into
Sure.
the school sometime.
Sure.
Like when there's a break. And
Just be there, just present.
Or a morning,
Yes,
when I'm having morning worship.
Sure.
For 10 minutes.
Because as Richard Troupe says, it's a violence in
Deacon,
schools. Violence in schools is a societal problem,
Yes.
and therefore demands a societal response.
That's right.
Yeah. So, the reason why I'm glad that you are here, sir, is because we are this notion that the ministry can do it all. The ministry can offer leadership and some insight and some key personnel. But this requires everybody. This requires the people who are listening to us from abroad and have picnic here in Jamaica, or relatives, to point out how critical it is for them to behave themselves in a certain fashion, to be responsible and accountable for themselves, rather than just feel that they're entitled to whatever is in the barrel or Western Union bring.
And Mr. Troupe, I'm an urban boy. Urban boy. And I don't want this to be a Kingston business. A rural boy. Ronnie is an urban
You're a rural boy.
I'm a rural boy. And I want to say to all rural schools, I'm available.
Yes.
Right? I would like to come and spend an hour sometime to talk to some fourth farmers, third farmers. Tell those boys that, how the future is running. Instead can walk out sometime.
No, indeed. I want to remind Richard Troupe of a modality which had some good effect. The late Professor Freddie Hickling sponsored a movement or initiated a movement called Dream a World. And what he used was the creative arts, and particularly drama, as behavior, a modus for behavior change.
Yes.
And I saw that work, Mr. Troupe, particularly in the primary schools. And of course, if you inculcate principles and practices of alternate dispute resolution, reduction of conflict from the earliest stages, they are likely to stick when hormones rage and adolescent fractiousness develops further on.
The class of presentation, hormones rage from what?
Fractiousness, adolescent fractiousness. But it's true.
That means when you get vexed and not think you're bad.
Yeah, and especially if girls are around.
Yes.
Or you bring in that equation.
Show off your fist.
How you mean? So I'm encouraging you that as early as we can start with this whole suite of therapy that Richard Troupe and the ministry are putting forward, the better it will be, sir.
And Mr. Troupe, for your answer.
You're right.
When I was in school and you said somebody coming from the Ministry of Education, a straighten up, a brush up, a straighten up, because somebody come from town.
Yes.
Now things might be different now.
Yes.
But
still
coming from the ministry, the government, to just come out there and give a 10 minutes lecture at a morning when they and emphasize some of these things.
So education officer not coming anymore to sit down in principal office and look at paper, Mr. Troupe. Education officer, in my experience, 60 years ago and more, was when a man named Ross Murray would come and he would address the student body.
They know Mr. Murray?
Yes. And who would inspire us. So everybody has to change up their roles, sir.
Yes.
And that is the plan.
Good.
Colleagues, that's why our region, this is not just a safety and security in schools.
No.
It is a It is a national response. It's a regional response. It's a school-based response. And that's why, Sir Thwaites, we would remind our school last week, Friday, that there are some things that they can do to at the local level.
Sure.
Truth be told, before the COVID-19 pandemic, we would have made significant improvement in safety and security in our nation's schools. And we would have done that in a deliberate way, in a very strategic way. We ask our schools to come back to basics, to recalibrate and give attention to some very fundamental things. So including, one, in the context that now there is no a proliferation of supposedly proliferation of weapons in schools, we ask our schools to do the regular searches guided by the security and safety protocols that would have been established by the ministry. We would have provided handheld metal detectors for all high schools. Some schools have many as 4. And we are saying, let's use metal detectors to again, ensure that students are discouraged from taking weapons to school. At our meeting on Friday, we would have indicated to principals that we have an inventory of over 100 metal detectors in stock in our inventory. If defective, so we are doing an audit now. If metal detectors are defective, we will replace. We would have provided 36 schools with walk-through metal detectors. We still have 9 to install. We would have paused that because of the pandemic and students were not in schools. But we are redoubling our efforts to make sure that the schools with walk-through metal detectors, they are working and functional and able to do what they are tasked to do. We are encouraging schools to ensure that they have revitalized and strengthened their safety and security committees. They're doing their safety and security audits. They're developing their safety and security plans, so that these would have been some of the successes of our effort. That would have resulted in the successes, and we're asking our principals, even in the context still of a pandemic, how do we give serious attention to? Sir Thwaites, we have asked our principals to ensure that they are keeping regular PTA meetings, to ensure that our parents are a part of the conversation. Truth be told, there would have been an article several weeks ago about parents telling children to carry weapons to school. That cannot be.
Never.
And so if we are doing searches in schools,
this gun
we are
culture,
encouraging our parents to also do searches at home as children leave homes to come to school. And that is part of the conversation we're having.
Get the support, get Minister Williams, if you please, sir, to engage the support of Minister Chang and Mr. Commissioner Anderson to say, look here, parents, you should not condone your child carrying any weapon to school, because we are going to be at the transport centers. We can't be everywhere, but we're going to enable the schools to be looking out for this. And there has to be another way to ensure your child's safety rather than to have them drudge a knife, a scissors, and eventually a gun.
And you need to need to set up parents know. If a child is found with a gun, him gone.
And so don't let it happen.
If a child is found with a scissors, it's a weapon.
I hear the government.
You don't want that.
No, but you see, it needs everybody to back up that.
Everybody has to back up that.
Yes. We need.
Because the first thing parents going to say, such as you can talk all you want.
But you
if
have
my
care.
child not had this, man going to go joke around. Well, the point is this: all of us have to get together and call and parent. One last thing that I want to say, Ronnie.
Sure.
You know, I am a community man.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to say to Mr. Troupe, we have community leaders in every areas of Jamaica. And it's not only to go to the bar and run out the boy. It's not only to say that the boy gone to school or the girl gone to school. It's to also talk to them. There was a man named Sanjay, who ride a mule to school fast enough that we can run for him, It's 1.5 miles where we walk to school,
Yes, sir.
But my Sanjay chat the mule. And anybody late, reach. That's a community thing that we never know.
History. Richard Troupe, just before you go, how are we doing with getting the children back into school? Unfortunately,
I was wondering if you're not going to ask that question, Sir Thwaites.
No, we know you're trying.
No, tell us what. Because
Sir Charles would have mentioned the community level engagement. Can I say that the community level engagement would have contributed significantly to our yard-to-yard Find the Child initiative?
Good.
Our acting CEO would have reported a few weeks ago that at that time, roughly only little bit under 25,000 of the 120,000 unaccounted students are still unaccounted for. So we would have made significant strides. So we still have a little bit over 25,000 students to identify, locate, and engage, re-engage in our schools. I'm happy to report that the majority of our children at the primary level have returned to school. The challenge we still have is at the high school level and at the senior level within the high schools. And we know that some of these boys and girls and their families would have opted to pursue an option of working at this time. Some of these boys and girls are 18 and older, and so they would have gone into work to complement the income of their families. But we're still making every effort to get those boys and girls, those young adults back in school.
You need to
because we know that it is the education. Education is that vehicle that is going to break, the cycle of poverty in many of our families and create the enabling environment for our children and families to do well and to do better.
Mr. Troupe, you need to engage. You need to appeal to some of those who are hiring these children.
Don't do it.
You need to appeal that you are
or hire them at the same time.
Them a future
well,
because you want free work.
They need the money,
cheap labor.
True.
We don't want that.
There's a problem.
Please see that all these children get out and go back to school.
So on the bridge now, Pearnel Charles, can we set a target for Mr. Troupe? I'm sure he'll join us. We normally have been pre-COVID looking at about 78% attendance in school. Okay, dangerously low. It needs to be about 90, 92 to make account for people who are ill and otherwise. Yes. That has to be our target for the remainder of the school year and beyond. Mr. Troupe. If we have to declare truancy zones, and as a kind of structural method, the law allows us to do that. But it is vitally important to get all of our children in school now and to use every possible means to achieve that. I think all of the other measures for behavior modification can only take effect if you actually can have the child in front of you, the young person.
That's right, Sir Thwaites. That's right. That's right.
So we what about for me it would be a national crusade, Pearnel, for the rest of this year to get our children in school if we did nothing else.
Can I tell you who other people can do it?
Yes, sir.
The police can do it without carrying a bone.
Yes.
The custodians can do it.
Yeah. The entertainers.
Them can drop a song now. Yeah. That this song bring back everybody to school.
Man. If our friend Tony Rebel, who we succeed on this program, were to stand up at Kingston High Gate or
talk to nobody let you go to school in a bridge.
Or bust a tune. Yeah. You would see people come out.
Bust a tune. May I go back to school because we have to go to school.
The National Parent Teachers Association is your biggest ally, Richard Troupe.
That's right.
Mr. Troupe, the community.
And they are involved too.
I do know that.
The community leaders.
I don't want to end. Permit me a few seconds just to make an appeal for the student themselves, because
your time.
It is one thing for the Ministry of Education to be advocating a particular course of action in response to the upsurge of violence, and we as a ministry encouraging our school leaders and our school to respond a particular way. But can I also make an appeal to our boys and girls and parents? You are listening. The listenership should be speaking to the parents. They know we are encouraging our students too that they must understand. They must take personal responsibility for their safety and security at this time, right?
Sure.
So when they journey to school in a group. We want them to avoid shortcuts. We want them not to be loitering during the shopping centers or bus park when school has ended, but go straight home. We are asking them at this time to avoid taking their cell phone and other valuables to school, and we want them to avoid being soft targets. If it is that they have to take the phone to school, make sure they put it away so it is not evident that they are carrying a high-end phone on their person. And we want them to recognize, Sir Thwaites, that they have a duty to report what they know. I mean, many people don't know this. But one of the game changers in the William Knibb issue was the culture of that institution for students to report what they knew. They were able to treat with the incident of that unfortunate incident of a student being killed during a physical altercation. by encouraging children to provide information, they were able to speak to other children who would have been involved in the case. And we're saying to schools, as we encourage children to share what they know, we want our schools to respond in a way that children feel that what they are sharing is being acted on.
Sure.
It is only when, as a school community, we work together on this particular situation that we are going to find the kind of closure. We're going to try to, the response that we are conceptualizing and implemented will take root and have the desired impact.
And that
Sir
is
Thwaites and Sir Charles, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak.
It's our
and
pleasure.
for you providing this kind of recommendations.
You have our full support.
It's a collective effort.
Thanks, Mr. Richard
As long
Troupe.
as you continue to work.
Yes,
And
full support.
You're fortunate to know you have an urban man and a rural man. So we
And
know
wise
this.
men, not just
we know-
urban and rural, but wise men.
Thank
We
you.
know
We
this thing,
return
Mr.
the
Troupe.
compliment.
Let's keep the ministry conscious because, as I say, when people from country, yes, a man come from ministry at town,
yes.
it's a difference.
Well, change of culture. Richard Troupe, thanks so much. This has been Focus on Education. The Acting Director for Safety and Security at the Ministry of Education has been our guest. And we reach out to all those listening to us, those abroad. Yes, you relating to your picnic or your nephew or whoever it is you are supporting here, or some family member, encourage them towards just the kind of values to talk straight, tell the truth about what's happening, to avoid violent occasions. Don't bother arm yourself. Seek the measures that are going to allow you to pursue your education with some amount of peacefulness and order and calm. And schools, stiffen up yourself and prepare yourself by proper public education for your community to do better.
Ronnie, can I add a
sure.
point?
Please add the
Because
sentence.
I would just like to say to the teachers, we can't pay you. Money cannot satisfy what is needed. We can't pay teachers for the development of other children, that is needed. No. Yes, they have to survive. Yes, they have their children. Yes, they have to live. But what is required, money can't pay for it.
They won't find much comfort in what you're saying there, but it is a reality, and we have to.
The reality is real.
Yeah, and what we have to do in order to make that reality stick, which is very, very important, we have to talk about this too, is that we have to stop wasting money and spending conspicuously and tolerating corruption. Yes, in order to persuade that it is a shared sacrifice and not something which some honeymouth people.
The future, Randy, that's where the future is.
Well, there you are, but you see that's not what I heard, because what I heard in the budget debate, for example, we soon break for the midday observance. What I heard was saying that we can't afford to spend more on social programs. Yes, a demand for more came from the opposition. A resistance to that came from the government. But nobody said, are we spending what we have in the best possible way to meet those objectives? When we come back on the Public Eye, this is the Bridge 99 FM. This is the Public Eye and the Open Mind on the Bridge 99 FM. Exciting stuff. We talk about practical solutions to some of the challenges in Jamaica. Enjoyed that issue, that discussion with Richard Troupe of the Ministry of Education. We have no apologies for making education center stage on this program, on this station. Well,
beyond education, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Education leads to something, you know. Education leads to the development of our society. Education leads to the development of our society.
Yes.
And it's in that development is people-based.
As our friends in the diaspora know very, very well. And so we welcome Beau-regard on Irie Jam. Hello, Beau. Welcome.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How you doing?
Fine, thanks. We're having exciting discussions here. We're glad to bring you and your audience into it.
Good to be a part of it.
I hear springtime bus out in New York.
Yeah, it busted now, but yesterday it kind of cold, but today much better. It's 41 degrees
Well,
today.
that's springtime.
Springtime. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, but he says it yesterday was cold, but today is better.
Yeah, today much better.
Yes.
41 degrees today.
Yes. Boy, we've been concentrating on what's going on in our schools here in Jamaica. Violence in schools is not something New York and the tri-state area are strange with, unfortunately. And we're really scratching our heads and asking how do we change a culture? How do we build a culture of nonviolence and of gentleness, of compassion, of alternate dispute resolution, you know? And we were just saying that there are churches around every school in Jamaica, no?
Yes.
And every school in New York too, you know, B.
Yes.
But the churches don't seem to engage themselves in the schools in the way that they really should.
Well, some schools do.
Some do?
Yes, some schools do. Some others, you know, don't. It depends. You know, some people have preference of religion, so you know you have to be very careful.
No, I don't think so. One of the things that religion or universally does, whether you're Muslim or you're Hindu or you're Catholic or you're Pentecostal, that we're all seeking better for our picnic, don't?
Right.
And therefore, if encouraging that and advancing that means the engagement of the people of religious sensitivity or humane sensitivity, even if you're just if you're a humanitarian, not a believer in any religion, you must interact with the children.
Yeah, I absolutely believe so. You know, it's unfortunate that you know there's so much crime and violence amongst our kids in the schools, and you know that also spills out into you know the community. And it's very sad what we see happening in Jamaica right now as far as crime is concerned. Even with the killing of a legend last night, you know, Mr. Tabby Diamond of the Mighty Diamonds, you know, the way we saw that played out is very,
Boy,
very
you
sad.
are ahead of us because I didn't even mention that. I did see a report of it, and that's very, very sad.
Yes.
Yes?
You know, and when we as diasporans here, you know, a lot of diasporans are afraid to go home with the crime that they see happening in Jamaica right now. And, you know, we see that our Prime Minister is here in the United States getting ready to have some conversations with the Vice President Kamala Harris, you know, and hopefully, you know, they can have some discussions and she maybe can, you know, help him with some methods as to how to deal with crime, maybe in the schools or maybe in Jamaica overall.
You know, Beau-regard, one of the bad things that is, one of the things bothering me in all of this, one incident in Hanover embarrasses everybody in Trelawney, Centon, Kingston, because it's Jamaica. One incident of a man get shot. I don't know. You don't hear the circumstances under which he gets shot, how he got shot, what the development to that. But it embarrasses all of us.
Yes.
And how do we get out of that? How do we get people mind running? You're everything mixed up in one. You're a politician. You're a pastor. You're not so black. And you're serving a black community. You're a mix up in everything, and you're a leader.
Hey, Beau-regard, you can defend me.
Right? So I am saying,
You know,
how do we say to people, look here, don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass our country. Don't embarrass our diaspora people. When Beau-regard walk into his restaurant and a man said, "Well, go on to Jamaica, but you then kill him." Embarrassed.
Shame.
Shame.
One of the things that I think help with the way things are perceived is the social media platform as well. I mean, it's good for a lot of reasons in terms of getting information out there, but as soon as something happens, it's on social media and people share it regardless of whether it's embarrassing to Jamaica or not. A lot of times I see some things and I say, why people really repost them something?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know the first question I asked my colleague this morning. What can we do about managing some of these things? Like,
well, you can't suppress them, but you have to make sure that they're put in proper context, and you have to give people the basis for doing that.
Some of them not true running.
No,
some of the things that
it's
come
true.
up.
It's true.
Yes,
You're correct.
yes.
And
in that sense,
and
yes.
it go to thousands of people.
Quite, but then leadership has
So
to
you have to appeal to those people
credible,
who are doing that.
Of course, and you have to have a counterpoint, don't you? I'm dying to ask Beau-regard though, and ask you, Pearnel Charles, what does your audience think of the incident at the Oscars with the boxing,
guy.
Smith and Rock?
There are mixed reviews. You know, people have opinions on how Will Smith reacted in terms of him defending his wife, and then there are people who have his opinion on Will Smith who says that he should not have went up there and did what he did, which I agree with. He should not have gone up there and did what he did. You know, they could have worked it out a different way. And then there are others who are saying that Chris Rock was a professional in the way he handled the situation.
Was unprofessional or professional?
Professional.
Yeah, but
he was a professional in terms of not. I mean, he did not defend himself. Some people are looking at it that way, like
he didn't fight back.
Yeah, him should have fight back. But then they're saying he's doing a job.
But why would it have entered his mind to run joke on the man's wife when the man's wife is obviously embarrassed and troubled by the fact that she has an illness which causes her to have no hair?
I brought up the same point, Mr. Thwaites, and I said to my audience, you don't know what people are going through. You don't know what's in their mind. You don't know what they're dealing with at home. Maybe he's had enough in terms of him being in the public spotlight and, you know, all the things that people have been saying about him and his family. Everyone has a breaking point.
Listen, so man, you are sitting down beside the lady. The man run joke about her. I don't know what the nature of the joke was, but it apparently was something that grabbed the audience and started to laugh, okay? And he looks at his wife sitting next to him and sees her pain. What must do? Sit down there?
She has alopecia,
yes,
a sickness that causes her to lose
her
hair.
A woman's hair is her beauty, huh? For many people see it that way.
Yes.
But and he the husband sees her, and no doubt there's a history of that. Where this man on the stage, yes, with whatever intention, perverse or otherwise, when take up to refer to another person's physiology.
You know, people will say that that's a part of comedy and that's a part of the act.
Comedy can't, no.
And I don't understand how they don't see the other side of it, where someone might not want you to run a joke with them, or someone
you can't
not because they're there to laugh doesn't mean they want to be laughed at.
No, it's certain thing. It's quiet. It's certain thing you can run joke with. Other thing you mustn't run joke with. Yes, right. You mustn't run joke about something that's going to hurt a person personally.
You can't enjoy yourself at the hurt
No.
And that's what I've been trying to tell.
And worse in any public.
That is malicious.
Yeah, you have to see the other side of it.
But you know something? I was watching this thing. You know.
Really?
Yes. And I saw the guy walk up.
Yeah.
And smack the guy in the face, and the guy didn't fight back. So I said, "What is that?" He said something nasty about his wife, and there are a lot of people who said man was defending wife.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say should not have done it.
Yeah.
The truth is, it didn't start with him.
Yeah.
It started with the guy who made the comment about his wife.
So now, hear me now, Beau-regard, Pearnel. Because Will Smith has come out and said, I'm sorry, he overreacted, etc., okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But Rock has not come out and said, I apologize for a tasteless, insulting joke about the man's wife.
I have not seen that.
So so the equities are not balanced at all, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, there may have been an overreaction in many people's minds. Yes,
but some wives said, man, you know, you're the man about me.
Well, exactly.
You have not heard what that man has just said.
Well, not only that, but it hurt me. And obviously there's a history.
I felt hurt.
Yes, of course. So I'm looking now, as far as I'm concerned, Smith come out come out better in it, because the other man, although him get the lick and him never fight back, him supposed to say, no, listen, I really started something that I shouldn't have. And I haven't heard him do that, so I'm waiting on that one now before coming. Well, until then, my judgment is with Smith.
For there to be a settlement in this.
Yeah, man.
Both have to say, look.
Two of them. Yeah.
We embarrass our audience.
Yes.
Right? Because people laugh on both sides, you know. Man say, good for boxing boy.
Yeah, but
the next man will say.
Yeah, but you see, it ties in. It ties in with all.
Some people say if it was another horse, he wouldn't have done it.
He wouldn't have done it.
And some people
if
also
it was a white horse, he wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, if it was a white horse, he wouldn't have done it.
But a white horse
would he have run that joke with a white man in the crowd?
Right.
Yeah. And his white wife.
Very
with
few
the
white
sickness.
persons look at a man worse in black. A white horse wouldn't do it.
And there's a community where you totally cannot run no joke with at all.
No,
yeah. Well, a sense of humor is a good thing, but a sense of humor which embarrasses a person, especially about a physical feature over which they have no control and which makes them look differently than what they feel. Yes?
Yes,
what
sir.
they feel is there is good. There is no place for that. There is no place for me to run any joke about Rasta hair or Afro hair or even bleaching hair. I stopped comment on that. Okay.
Right.
Well,
Beau-regard, hold on tight. Pearnel Charles, hold on tight. Time for a break. When we come back, Ambassador Curtis Ward, veteran diplomat and commentator on international affairs as they relate to Jamaica, joins us to engage our audience both in the diaspora and here in Jamaica. This is The Public Eye. This is The Public Eye. I'm Ronald Thwaites, the Honorable Pearnel Charles Sr. is the co-host, and we welcome Ambassador Curtis Ward. Good afternoon, sir. Hello, Ambassador, you're there.
Good afternoon.
Happy to have you, sir.
How are you?
Thank you. And well, thank you. We're joining in with our friends at Irie Jam Radio in the tri-state area of New York. So we have an international as well as a local audience. I'm sure you know Honorable Pearnel Charles, former government minister.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have a recording of him, which I did, I believe, in the 70s,
Really?
while he was making a speech at Howard University.
What? I wonder if he remembers that. Yes?
which of the university?
Howard.
Okay.
Yes, there you go.
That's where I met Clifton Stone and...
Ambassador is the former ambassador and deputy permanent representative for Jamaica in the United Nations with special responsibility for Security Council affairs. Ambassador, help us. Very often in Jamaica and among Jamaicans abroad, we tend to be insular in our views and but Pearnel and I, in the break before coming to you, have just been really wrenching about the situation between Ukraine and Russia, and feeling so distressed at the human carnage, and also at our helplessness as a small nation to be able to do anything, say anything meaningful. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Well, like you said, there's not a whole lot that we can do, but certainly we can support those who have the capacity to respond. I think our vote in the UN General Assembly was very, very good. We did the right thing.
Yeah.
What I'm concerned about, though, I saw a statement from the foreign minister in the press recently. I hope she was misquoted. But when asked about the sanctions that the US, EU, Canada, everybody else, UK putting on Russia, her response was that Jamaica will enforce those sanctions by the Security Council. Of course, the Security Council cannot act against Russia because of Russia's veto power in the Security Council.
Yes.
And certainly the foreign minister should be aware of that.
Whoa. And also, I gather that, to use our way of speech, we're hitching because of the significance of the Russian investment in the bauxite sector in Jamaica. We don't want to compromise that. In my view, we have to be very clear about our morals on this one, Ambassador Ward.
Yes, we have to. And traditionally, our prestige and respect throughout the world has been based on our stand on principles.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I heard the Prime Minister this morning on a local television station in Washington expressing those principles. And, so we have to say it at home. And I understand the complications with the bauxite industry. But here is an opportunity. The Prime Minister will be meeting with the Treasury Secretary, and he must raise it with the Treasury Secretary to give Jamaica an exemption.
Explain that for us, sir. The Treasury Secretary of the United States, Prime Minister meeting, and what the exemption would be to what, of what nature and to what effect?
For us to continue doing business in the bauxite industry.
Yeah, but let me ask
without violating the U.S. sanctions.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. The U.S. don't run Jamaica. If they were to say take an action towards certain Russians in their arrangement with the Russian government, It does not dictate that we have to follow that. We have to have our own position. If Jamaica says in our position towards Ukraine, this is what we are going to do, we do it. Not because Washington does something that we have to jump for. In other words, we have some people in Jamaica who would not go with that.
Well, I don't think that's what Ambassador Ward is saying.
What did you say?
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, Mr.
No,
Smith.
go ahead.
I certainly respect the fact that Jamaica is a sovereign country
Yes.
and should do what is in Jamaica's national interest.
Yes.
But there are certain things which also have moral implications for a country that can vote in the UN Security Council condemning the Russian invasion, not the Security Council, the UN General Assembly, condemning the invasion of Ukraine, condemning Russia, holding Russia as violating international law, international norms, doing something which threatens the sovereignty and territorial integrity of a weaker country, of which we fall into that category, and we seek protection for ourselves through those principles. So when it comes to punishment, Jamaica cannot sit on the sideline. That's hypocritical, with due respect.
But explain to me, what do you mean by going to the Secretary General, to the Treasury and ask
seeking exemption? What would that mean, Ambassador?
In other words, that they have done it, so we're begging them to let us not do it?
No, they could take certain
what
action.
The exemption does. Let me try to explain that.
Please do. It's important.
The Treasury Department is the agency, the department within the U.S. government that enforce sanctions. You can obtain licenses, exemptions to those sanctions if you have a critical national interest that would be hurt by those sanctions. But if you don't do that and act as if we don't care about these sanctions, then what can happen is there are certain what we call secondary sanctions and certain repercussions that could be applied to Jamaica for not only violating these sanctions, but aiding and abetting Russia in violating the sanctions. So we have to be very careful.
Come closer home for me. The United States has done this against Cuba, right next door to us. We have not followed the United States.
No.
So
no, but that's a different thing. The U.S. embargo against Cuba is not being enforced.
What?
In the same way as the sanctions say against Venezuela, Iran, now Russia. There's a different level of enforcement. The Cuban embargo has been seen as mostly political than anything else. But the sanctions against Russia is as a result of Russia being in gross violation of international law, violating the sovereignty and territorial integrity of an independent state, etc., etc. It's egregious actions, killing civilians, and including women and children. So,
but won't you say that
deliberately targeting them.
But hasn't Jamaica agreed with the United Nations? And we voted with all that the United Nations has said and is doing?
The United Nations cannot impose any sanctions on Russia because sanctions have to be imposed by the UN Security Council. That's the only international body with the authority to impose sanctions. However, as I explained earlier, Mr. Charles, Russia has veto power in the Security Council. So the Security Council cannot impose sanctions on Russia.
Okay, but practically now on the local scene, the Windalco is owned, and other elements in the bauxite industry are owned by UC Rusal. There is suggestion, I don't know whether it's correct, that the owners of UC Rusal were or still are strong allies of Vladimir Putin, and that they are contributors to the war effort. What should be Jamaica's posture if that is so?
I don't know if you recall when sanctions were first put on Russia over Ukraine. UC Rusal Jamaica could not do any financial transactions with Russia. Okay? And Der Pasca, who was the major shareholder in UC Rusal, he's one of the oligarchs.
Yeah.
He had to give up his control of
UC Rusal shares
of the company in order for the sanctions against the alumina company itself to be waived.
Yes.
So what I'm saying here is the Treasury Department has the authority to waive the sanctions in particular cases and to avoid any repercussions, any secondary penalties that may follow violations of the sanctions. Is a golden opportunity for the Prime Minister to raise this with the Treasury Department.
Boy, what a pity we have to do that, though. I agree with you. But what a pity we have to do that. Why we can't... Well,
we're not a country.
Well, the point is that we can't do without these people. And that is the truth.
Well, and what Ambassador is saying, we can't do without these people, yet we are an ally of America. So we are between what now?
Well, I don't know.
Sanctions are across the board. And the sanctions are not just there for U.S. political reasons. Sanctions are there because of the gross violations of international law. Principles which Jamaica
must defend,
and which Jamaica hold as sacrosanct in its international relations.
More than money. More than money.
And you know what I'm about to agree with you on?
Yeah.
And if we could send a message, I would hope that discussions take place between the Prime Minister and them on the matter.
Well, let's broaden that a little bit more. Thank you for that, Pearnel. But Ambassador Ward, Jamaica doesn't have much geopolitical clout anymore. What is Vice President Harris and Prime Minister Holness likely to talk about? Is there any? I mean, we are not. This is not the Cold War. Many years ago, where we were in a strategic position. Have we lost our geopolitical importance?
We have to a large extent, Ronnie, and I'm very sad to say that because I am one of those people who have experienced Jamaica's influence at the UN and in the Security Council. Look, when I was in the Security Council, because of our prestige and the level of respect that they held for Jamaica, I have found myself mediating between Russia and the US and UK on one side on a number of issues in the Security Council.
Really?
I know Ambassador Lavrov, who is now the Foreign Minister of Russia. I know him very well. We served for 2 years together in the UN Security Council.
Wow.
And I've had to intervene to temper tempers between both sides. And they respected Jamaica, so they listened to Jamaica. Jamaica used to lead within the developing world. And whenever Jamaica spoke, other countries responded. I don't know if any of you gentlemen recall, back in the late 70s, when there was a resolution in the UN General Assembly which condemned racism in all its forms, including apartheid and Zionism. Jamaica abstained. Why? When Jamaica abstained, several other countries in the developing world followed Jamaica's abstention. As a result, the resolution was adopted, and there were editorials in American newspapers saying it's Jamaica's fault why the resolution was adopted, because if Jamaica had voted against it, it would have been defeated because of the number of countries that would have followed Jamaica.
Yes.
You won't see that anymore.
Why, sir?
You won't see that
What have
anymore.
we? No, but that's that. No, Ambassador Ward, on Pearnel Charles, we have to pause there because I have to ask you. This is critical to us. This is the what in Latin we call the magis, the extra that is rightly ours. This has been prepared for and fought for and negotiated for us to have this place. Why are we? Why is the sense of our morality, of our significance, despite our size? Why is that diminishing, Ambassador Ward, in your view?
Can I just add to it?
Yeah.
Why would you say to me that either the policy of Jamaica restrict who is now there from proceeding? Why? Is it a government policy? Or is it because you, as a forward revolutionary man at the UN that changed so many people, is it because you are not there? Have you passed it on to anybody?
I don't think.
What's the problem?
Let Ambassador answer.
No, Pearnel, it goes way beyond that. Let me tell you, it begins with leadership in the region.
Yes.
It begins with leadership at CARICOM level. Who are global leaders listening to when they speak from the region these days? Just think about it.
They're listening to Prime Minister Motley, not to our Prime Minister or any other.
Jamaica used to lead on foreign policy. I remember going back to the days when we were negotiating with the EU for the Lome Convention. Jamaica led that initiative. Jamaica has led the group of 77 plus China in the UN. We have been, but we can redeem our position. But for instance, the Caribbean region is very divided as it is now. And in the last US administration, those of the Caribbean leaders that ended up at Mar-a-Lago did not do our region any benefit. And when former Secretary Pompeo visited Kingston and others in the Caribbean were not invited at the foreign minister's level, that was not helpful. When President Obama was on his way to the America Summit, where did he stop? Jamaica.
Yeah.
Where did he convene with the heads of government of the Caribbean? In Jamaica. But over time, our position has largely been diminished. Prime Minister Holness, on this visit to Washington, has an opportunity to resurrect some of our image, but not only on a bilateral basis. They are looking to Jamaica to lead the Caribbean region, and we must be prepared to do that. They want us to lead.
Well,
we cannot abdicate that responsibility to anyone else.
What a statement. When we come back from the short break, Ambassador Ward, Pearnel, let's engage Ambassador on the issue of issues to do with the diaspora, their role, their influence. After all, a member of the diaspora is the Vice President of the United States. And let's get a comment from Ambassador Ward on the issue of reparations as well. This is important discussion. You won't find this anywhere else on the media in Jamaica. This is a public eye. We soon come. You're on the public eye, on the Bridge 99. We broadcast to the diaspora. We radiate the Jamaican spirit to our people, to lovers of the country, everywhere and anywhere. Interesting discussion going on with Ambassador Curtis Ward, veteran diplomat, defender of Jamaica's interest, and the Honorable Pearnel Charles and myself. Ambassador Ward, there are as many Jamaicans living in the diaspora than there are on the rock. Are we engaging them enough? Is there more of a role in recovering that position of preeminence that you spoke of earlier that they can and should play?
The short answer to that, no. And I'll go into more details in a little bit. But I just want to refer back to the Prime Minister's schedule, if I
Sure.
may.
Yes, please.
His meeting on Capitol Hill with legislators is extremely important and not secondary to his meeting with members of the executive. Because any program from the executive branch must go through Capitol Hill. Okay, so these meetings are important. I want to stress the meeting with the chairman and members of the International Relations Committee in the Senate, the Foreign Relations Committee. That committee, the chairman himself is anti-Cuban. He has among his members 2 staunch anti-Cuban senators, Marco Rubio from Florida and Ted Cruz from Texas.
What an embarrassment. Who is the chairman again?
Menendez, Robert Menendez,
yes,
from New Jersey. He's also Cuban American.
Uh-huh.
So that meeting could be a minefield for the Prime Minister if he's not properly briefed and prepared to deal with those individuals. Okay? And the reason why I had to bring it up is because you mentioned, Pearnel mentioned the Cuba relations and the embargo and so on.
Yeah.
So those are important. On the House side, meeting with people like Maxine Waters,
Yeah, man, friend.
extremely important. She has jurisdiction over the international financial institutions. She was very helpful
Yes.
when Portia Simpson Miller was the Prime Minister to get us the best deal out of the IMF
Yes. 2013.
when we were renegotiating. She was very, very instrumental.
Indeed, Christmas Eve.
Along with Yvette Clark, who worked with her on that. But also, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee in the House, Gregory Meeks, he's very friendly to Jamaica.
Oh.
But I don't know if the meeting will be one-on-one with him, but I saw mention that he's going to convene a member of the committee as well. And there are members in that committee who are anti-Cuban as well. Okay? So he has to tread very gingerly in those meetings. We know where the Caribbean stand as a whole on Cuba. He should not back away from that. But at the same time, he should listen to them. Okay? Gregory Meeks told me
there any
that
pro-Cuban on it? Is there anybody who would be supportive of Cuban in any of these committees that you're talking about, Mr. Ward?
yes, there are members, and Gregory Meeks himself believes in rationalizing relations with Cuba. So Gregory Meeks is an ally in that respect. But if he's having interactions with other members of the committee, because on the top of their agenda is not Jamaica, US.
Yes.
Is US, Cuba, and therefore Jamaica, Cuba. So he has to be careful. Like I said, I don't know what kind of briefings he has received and whether he's fully aware of these little minefields. Gregory Meeks had told me that the first 2 countries in the Caribbean he'll visit when he's traveling to the region will be Jamaica and Haiti. Okay? So I know his sentiments. He has strong, let me segue into the diaspora, because people like Gregory Meeks have strong connection to the diaspora in New York, you know? And this is where members of the diaspora can help. And you asked a question about, is Jamaica effectively engaging with the diaspora? And I said, no. Jamaica can help. I mean, the diaspora can help Jamaica in every facet of its US-Jamaica relations.
What I want to ask you about CARICOM, because listening to you, it comes home to me that what we have lost it because we have a united voice
Ambassador
that is as loud as it used to be from all our Caribbean together as a CARICOM.
You know, I was recently reading public exchanges between Trinidad and Guyana, for instance. those things have to be resolved. In the past, a Jamaica would step up and try to mediate between them and tamp it down. We don't see that anymore. And look, former Prime Minister Bruce Golding chaired a commission which the Prime Minister established, Prime Minister Holness established, to look at Jamaica's role in CARICOM and CARIFORUM.
Yes.
He made 33 recommendations in his report. This was in 2017, March. And as far as I understand it, most of these recommendations have not been acted upon. These are things which you gentlemen, I hope, will take a look at, because they are important to Jamaica's role in CARICOM and the region and entire Americas. Jamaica in the OAS, for instance, and I saw Minister Vaz will be meeting with the Secretary General of the OAS. But Jamaica in the OAS used to play a very important role, and I use the term used to. CARICOM has 14 votes in the US. It takes 23 votes for a majority to carry any decision in the OAS. You know who is leading CARICOM in the OAS? Antigua and Barbuda.
Lord.
For all kinds of reasons, okay? I don't want to get into some of those details because let me get back to the diaspora, please.
Yes.
I get carried away when it comes to
well,
foreign
one
policy.
understands, and it points in one direction. So we can strengthen ourselves by better, more comprehensive interaction with our diaspora. And we're talking about a Caribbean diaspora, even
Yes,
as
indeed.
much.
Indeed.
Yes.
And what you will find is that in the Caribbean diaspora, Jamaicans tend to take leadership positions.
Yes.
We outnumber everyone else. We are the largest group of Caribbean diaspora members. Second to us is Haiti, but Haiti kind of operates in a different way, okay? The Haitian diaspora. We try to bring them in and work with them when we can. But Jamaica tends to lead the Caribbean diaspora. And we have no problem doing that. We have done this over the years. Many other Caribbean groups will look up to the Jamaican groups and so on and so forth. But what I say, we can be a lot more helpful, apart from our remittances and the education, health, and social programs. When it comes to engaging with the US government, legislature, and executive, members of Jamaican diaspora and the Caribbean diaspora vote in US elections. If we are fully informed of the issues that Jamaica have with the US, we can lobby our representatives to back Jamaica's position. We are not being given the information that we need.
Okay, well, that's a clear indication of what we should do. Ambassador, jumping because time is closing in on us. There's a lot of sentiment about reparations in Jamaica, stirred by this Mr. Mountbatten Windsor's visit. What's your thoughts? Is there any international consensus that reparations should be paid to the South for all of the indignities that the North has visited upon us, and particularly the sequelae of colonialism and slavery?
I do believe that there is broad sentiment. I don't know if there's a consensus, but I think it's close to a consensus. What is also important is that there are many different views as to what reparations really mean. I think in Jamaica and the Caribbean context, the work at the University of the West Indies in trying to define this issue, I think has been very important. And I believe the government and opposition are on board with the process. How it is done, how it is taken forward is very important. I know former Minister Henry did yeoman's work on this, and certainly Sir Hilary Beckles at UW has done a lot of work on this, and Marion Shepherd and Doan. I am not really a reparations expert, but I support the idea of reparations. How and what it means to Jamaicans and the rest of the Caribbean, it is something that has to be.
But if we're going to get international support, if there's going to be a groundswell developing, we have to determine very quickly how and what it really means, Ambassador. We can't just be espousing a concept. On this program, Pearnel Childs and myself, with limited information, really feel that there's a case for reparations taking the form of very considerable investment in education in Jamaica, in the Caribbean. And we want to particularize it because it's significant. That's the way you build strength and hopefully consensus and pressure.
I agree with you. Education is very important in this process.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I was very pleased to see the statement reported in the papers, I think it was last week, and that KD Knight was advocating for education.
We are glad for his company. Ambassador Curtis Ward.
Ambassador, I know you're hurrying.
Every bandwagon needs some passengers.
Absolutely.
What I would like to be able to go away with is that there's still a CARICOM voice, united voice of all the Caribbean people.
So we're pushing it
so
today.
that we all would be carrying that force.
Have to leave
of
it
the
there.
Caribbean somewhere.
Ambassador Ward, thanks so much for an entertaining
Lots of work to
discussion.
be done.
Hope we can check up on you again in the future for more perspective.
It
Ambassador
was really my pleasure, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Curtis Ward, retired diplomat in the service of Jamaica. The Honourable Pearnel Childs, retired politician and statesman and trade unionist, joins us, and we thank him too, and all of those who have made the public eye possible. And to our friend Beau-regard and his illustrious audience on Irie Jam, we bid adieu for the time being. Soon come back.